What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ, Bucky, Rhett, back with you. Week one is in the books, and I would say it ended with a bang. I mean, that was one of the more emotionally roller coastery rides that I can remember for a Monday night football game, week one. Buck, what in the world? I mean, I'm still trying to bring all this stuff in that we saw last night. It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. And you can hear my dog in the background. She's saying it's a lot because of all the stuff that we saw, not only on Monday night, but throughout the course of the weekend. There is nothing like the National Football League. We think we know coming out of the preseason, but we really have no idea what's going to take place when they kick it off for real.
Look, guys, I mean, I was at Jets camp. Chances are you guys were there at some point in time based on all that we talked about, with this Jets team coming into this season. I was on the pregame show for the Giants-Jets preseason game that we had live on NFL Network. The amount that we had talked about, anticipated, got excited for what was about to be the season debut of a year that we expected to have such huge expectations for this Jets team. I felt like I was invested. And then now I'm just, I think like everyone, your heart just kind of sank. Obviously, you feel terrible for Aaron and for everyone who put in that much time to make this season, all that it could be for the Jets. But now it's like, all right, we got to move past this thing, right? We got 16 games left. Let's figure out a way, to salvage this season because, they do have a ton of talent.
I'll tell you guys, man, and we'll jump into this game. I was actually visiting someone in the hospital watching the game. So I'm watching this game, and I got there. I literally got in my car. I'm driving to the hospital, and there's 12 minutes to go in the first quarter, and I turn on the radio, and it's like Zach Wilson drops back to pass, and I kind of just was like, I'm in the car by myself, going like, wait, what? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like I was totally lost trying to catch up on the news. So then fast forward to the end of the game, I'm in the hospital. It's late, obviously it's in overtime, even though we're on the West Coast. He takes that punt back, and I just jump out of my seat. I'm like, oh my gosh! And then I realized you can't scream like that, oh my gosh, when you're in a hospital. The nurse is going to come crashing in there and think something's gone terribly wrong. It was, it was surreal. The whole thing was bizarre. But Buck, I guess I'll kick it over to you. First of all, is hope lost for this Jets team? And where do they go? In your opinion, if you had to make this next decision, this is going to be critical for them. What do you do?
I think you stand pat. You may bring in a veteran quarterback to obviously back up Zach Wilson, but part of your confidence, one of the reasons why you didn't trade Zach Wilson away is because you felt like he had some value. And you felt like after listening to Aaron Rodgers, at some point, he was going to hand the baton back and the keys to the offense back to Zach Wilson. Not this year, maybe not next year, but in a couple years, the expectations that Zach Wilson was going to continue to be the franchise quarterback. I would rally around Zach Wilson if I'm Robert Saleh and the offensive staff. Let's build him up because throughout the course of the preseason, Zach Wilson looked like a different guy. Watching him play last night against the Buffalo Bills, he looked like a more mature quarterback at the position. Was it perfect? No. But he certainly was more decisive, more confident, avoided the big mistake, and found a way to win a game that maybe he wouldn't have won last year. If you're Robert Saleh and those guys, this is part of why they pay you the salary that they pay you to be the head coach. Your job is to solve problems. You now have a problem at quarterback. The solution should be Zach Wilson. But now, how do we fix the team to win with Zach Wilson in quarterback instead of Aaron Rodgers at quarterback?
Yeah, and look, I don't know, DJ, you're going to get into this based on what you saw from Zach Wilson and from this offense once Aaron Rodgers went down. But I think you kind of saw the formula, right? You got a taste of it in game. And I think until you can get this offense and you get Zach and Nathaniel Hackett to kind of, work this thing out together and find their best course forward, in the pass game and throughout, that's going to take some time, right? It's going to take a couple of weeks. So until then, you ride Breece Hall, you ride Dalvin Cook, you ride Michael Carter. Like that run game was terrific last night. I mean, Breece obviously had the 83-yard run, which was awesome, but then, came back and the next, 9 carries were still pretty solid. Dalvin Cook, didn't get it going as much in the run game, but you can rely on him in the pass game too. I think what you're, part of what you're going to see is what you saw in the wake of the Aaron Rodgers injury. And until Zach and Nathaniel Hackett and the offensive staff can figure out a path forward of comfortability in the pass game, you ride it. You ride it out, because the offensive line, for as shaky as they might have been throughout the preseason, DJ, in pass pro, I mean, like, they look pretty dang good in the run game.
Yeah, and this was the first time getting that specific five out there together. So I think you'll see them, provided they can stay healthy, get better. They do have a little depth. Joe Tippmann's not starting for them right now. Their rookie, who's going to be a really good player along the interior. They have Vera Tucker, who can slide out and play tackle if needed. So they have a little bit of depth there. They just need to stay healthy if they can up front. A couple things. Breece Hall, you mentioned him, Rhett. He played 17 snaps. 17 snaps. He had 147 total yards. I mean, goodness gracious. And people need to remember, go back to last year. We know how it ended last year with Zach Wilson and the Jets. They couldn't win a game. They couldn't move the ball. He got benched. It was a nightmare. But look at what happened when they had Elijah Vera Tucker in the lineup. Look at what happened when they had Breece Hall in the lineup. They were winning games with Zach Wilson, not really asking him to do a whole lot early on in the season. Now, fast forward to this year, you've got Vera Tucker back. You've got Breece Hall back. Now you've got Mekhi Becton, who you didn't have last year. Now you've got Dalvin Cook as well. You've got Lazard, who is an unbelievable blocker, who he helps the run game as well, and he's a trustworthy target you can get the ball to. They played a bunch in 13 personnel. They had 3 tight ends on the field. Jeremy Ruckert is going to be a really good player. But when you look at Uzomah, Conklin, and Ruckert, they can give you some nightmares matchup-wise, what they're doing in the run game, and then maybe spread you out a little bit in the pass game. I think this offense with Nathaniel Hackett looks on first blush to be a better fit for Zach. They're going to really incorporate the screen game. They're going to bake in some easy completions for him. But I want to give Zach a little bit of credit here because I felt like watching it and listening to the broadcast, it was almost oh my gosh, everything that happened good was somebody else's credit, and everything that went bad was his fault. And I'm like, oh, hold up, there's a 3rd and 5 conversion where he throws a corner route to Garrett Wilson. It's a key conversion. And I'm watching this, Buck, and when you see it on TV, you're like, oh, he underthrew it and kind of got him on the back shoulder. He had to go down and cradle and catch it. And then you watch the tape this morning, and I see, look, you've got the corner, Tre'Davious White, who's sinking underneath that. He throws that on target. It's picked. He actually did a nice job of pulling him away from the defender. It was a good throw. He had a couple other nice conversions. So I think there's things in place to help him. And Buck, I'll get it to you on this one. I think the most important piece that's there for him that wasn't there last year is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers needs to stay invested here because the two questions, the two issues with Zach more than anything else, decision-making and confidence. And I think Aaron Rodgers can help in both those departments.
Absolutely can help him. The best job that I think Aaron Rodgers has done in looking at it through Hard Knocks, he has been the mentor to Zach Wilson that every young quarterback needs. He has worked with Zach Wilson to understand how to go through the progressions, when to dial it up and be more of a risk taker, and when the game is in hand and when you can be conservative and you just make good decisions. He needs to be around because Zach Wilson has certainly made a tremendous amount of progress from the beginning of the offseason to now. He looks like a much different player than the one that we saw the last time he was on the field in 2022. That needs to continue. But you pointed out, Breece Hall, look, when I look at Breece Hall has some vintage Le'Veon Bell. And I don't want the Jets fans to freak out because the Le'Veon Bell that showed up in New York is not the one that I'm alluding to. I'm talking about the one that played in Pittsburgh, the one that was crafty and shifty and has a knack for getting to the next level. Breece Hall looks like a superstar running back. Well, now you take Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, you run the football behind that big offensive line. You now change the magic number from maybe 30 rushing attempts to 38 to 40, and you just commit to we're going to run the football down opponents' throats, much like Kyle Shanahan does with the Niners. You play defense behind that and find a handful of concepts that Zach Wilson can execute well. I'm not asking the number 2 overall pick to play like Brock Purdy, but what I'm asking Robert Saleh to do is to look at his colleague, Kyle Shanahan, and figure out how they got Brock Purdy to play well and implement a similar strategy to get Zach Wilson to play at a high level for the Jets and still find a way to win games in New York.
There's a way to win with this offense, but it was plain to see last night this is a championship caliber defense that the Jets have. I mean, You get Quincy Williams, and DJ Reed, combining for like 21 tackles on the day. Quinnen, Quinnen forced that I think it was actually the second interception from Josh Allen, which we'll get to here in just a second. And then, it was Quinnen absolutely destroyed the center, and, Josh threw up a prayer into double coverage that got picked off. And you get Jermaine Johnson in with the sack. Quentin Jefferson might end up being one of the better, acquisitions of this offseason. 2 sacks on the night for himself as well. And Jordan Whitehead, can Josh Allen, is it a problem with seeing the number 3? Is it like an invisibility situation? The 3 interceptions, all to number 3 in White. Just to kind of connect the dots with Zach Wilson and Josh, Zach outplayed Josh Allen. Zach operated better within the offense that he was running than Josh Allen did. Josh said as much himself. He was the reason they lost this game. He said it a number of different ways, number of different times, and he's absolutely right. It felt eerily similar to the problems that they had on offense a year ago. Barely running the ball, throwing it 42 times a game, and forcing balls into double coverage. Clearly, bad decisions at times, and then that last interception might have been both bad decision, bad throw, the whole deal. I'm a little concerned about where this Bills offense is going to take this team this year, DJ, because those 3 interceptions from Josh Allen are, those are unacceptable.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination of the 2 things, and I fielded a lot of questions about, man, that this Chargers defense can't be this bad against the Miami Dolphins. Are they really that bad? I'm like, well, you know what? The other side of it is Miami's offense is really good. Now, this Jets defense is loaded. They are stacked, and they were hitting him repeatedly. They got to him 5 times to sack him. They hit him 9 times total. And I think what happens sometimes as a quarterback, when you've got pressure like that, and then all of a sudden you're able to elude the pressure a little bit, and you feel like you've bought time. You feel like somebody's got to be open down the field. Like, I just got out of this maze and somehow I've survived. Like, where's my shot? Well, the thing is, the Jets are doing this. They're getting this pressure with 4 guys, sometimes 5 guys. They still have coverage on the back end, and I think he just got too greedy, too aggressive. In college at Wyoming, we referred to a little bit as some hero ball. Well, you've got to understand as you mature. Understand there's different paths to the finish line on a weekly basis in the NFL, Buck. And this was a game that didn't require that from him. He didn't need to play hero ball. They needed to run the ball and punt at one point in time. That's all they really felt like they had to do. They had this Jets offense trying to find themselves. The stadium was dead. You just had, Aaron Rodgers. It felt like let's just complete balls. Let's run the football. Any drive that ends in a punt or a kick is a successful drive. The one thing you can't do is turn it over. And he did it 4 times. So that, to me, just showed a little bit of a lack of growth and maturity that we were hoping to see.
Yeah, lack of maturity, lack of growth. But I'm going to bring this up, and it'll be something to watch the rest of the year. Sean McDermott decided to become the defensive play caller this year after Leslie Frazier stepped away from it. And what I worry about with Sean McDermott doing this is, can he stay on top of calling the defense while managing the overall picture of the game? Meaning, in this situation, perhaps if he had a defensive coordinator, he could then call into Ken Dorsey and say, we got this game under control. The only thing we need to do is drain the clock, take care of the ball, and let's just get out of here with a win. We don't need to worry about stats. We don't need to worry about how many yards that Josh Allen has. Let's just do what we need to do to get out of here. One of the things to monitor, when you become the guy that is also calling plays, you're so entrenched to that one side of the ball that sometimes you miss the bigger picture when it comes to complementary football play. I wonder, will Sean McDermott be distracted by the added responsibilities that he put on his plate by being the defensive coordinator, as opposed to the CEO that he was when he managed the offense, defense, and special teams and coordinated those groups to make sure that his team was always in the best position to win the game?
And here's the thing, the last thing I'll say on Josh, and I think that's a fair point, by the way, to wonder, and to follow down the stretch here, Bucky, about, how Sean McDermott continues to manage the game as a head coach and a defensive play caller moving forward. My guess is he's going to figure that out. And my guess is Josh Allen is probably going to figure it out too. We've seen how much better than this he can be, and seen it, for an entire season just a couple of years ago. Last year, I know at times felt like we saw games like this, and he alluded to it. I mean, you go back into this game alone and you see that phenomenal scramble he has, about to go out of bounds, and finds a way to sneak it into Stephon Diggs in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. And I just, like, obviously I can't imagine how difficult it is knowing you can make a play like that and then trying to dial it back when you know you don't necessarily have to, because you've done it so many different times. So I get that part of it is probably a little bit difficult. But man, yeah, and you got to have that game situation awareness, knowing where you're at and knowing what's required of you just to go out there and get a win.
Yeah, and again, look, it's 1 week. The Bills, they're going to be okay. The defense is really good. You go back and watch the tape; they're going to be really good on that side of the ball. And Josh he'll learn from this. He'll grow. The ability is ridiculous. I wouldn't worry about the Bills just yet. Another quarterback on the positive side of things that deserves some praise, and it was another one we were looking forward to seeing. We didn't know what we were going to get, was Jordan Love making his debut for the Green Bay Packers. This was a big win for them on the road. You see the numbers right here: 15 of 27, 245, 3 touchdowns in a game where I thought he got better and better and better. And the numbers are going to come up to compare him to Aaron Rodgers in his debut. Both big wins. Obviously, Rodgers in a blowout fashion, 37-3. But again, the numbers very comparable: 227 to 245. Rodgers 2 touchdowns and a pick. Love with 3 TDs. Let me get to Red on this one first. Just what you saw from Jordan Love versus what you expected to see from Jordan Love.
I think it was kind of right on par, because I think we've seen some of this. If you go out and you watch some of what he was able to do in training camp the last couple of years and in preseason at times this year. But what we did see was something that Josh Allen didn't have the luxury of, which was barely any pressure on him in this game. Just felt like the Bears just weren't able to get any pressure. I mean, you watch that first touchdown pass that he throws to Romeo Doubs. They're down at the 5-yard line where he expected things to get sped up a little bit, and he's just kind of back there. He patted a little bit. He steps up in the pocket with no real threat at the pocket collapsing. You got Romeo Doubs is running like a triple move in the end zone here to get open. By the way, it was a fantastic route. Eventually comes wide open in the middle of the field, and you're feeling pretty dang good. Clean pocket, good throw, on the money, touchdown, and man, he got off and running with some good confidence early on in that game. And look, I know that the 15 to 27, makes you think like, just over 50% completion. That's not that great. I thought he made some big throws in the game, made all the throws he needed to really make in this game for his team to come out with the W. So in terms of expectation, DJ, I thought it was right on for a guy who'd been in this program and been in this system and been with Matt LaFleur now for a number of years. Finally getting his shot, felt like he had that experience.
Yeah, I watched the tape, and to me, I thought he did a nice job of really slowing things down. His lower body, he was where his feet were. He wasn't too skittish. He got more comfortable with that as the game went along. You saw him climb up in the pocket. He just looked like somebody that the game it slowed down for, and that's the benefit of sitting. You get a chance to understand and master your offense. You get a chance to study defenses for a few years. He looked like somebody who had that poise. Now, he still misfired and missed a couple shots that he's got to make, accuracy-wise. This is, if we put up the board, compare him to Aaron Rodgers, like this is not Aaron Rodgers. He's not as pinpoint accurate as he is. But I thought he was comfortable. I thought he was poised. And I thought one of the differences in that game when you watched it versus some of these other quarterbacks that struggled this week, I thought they did a nice job, LaFleur did, Buck, of dialing up the shot play and had it schemed up beautifully. I mean, they had the tight end. Musgrave was wide open. There's nobody within 40 yards of him. Actually, it wasn't a great throw. It should have been a touchdown from Jordan Love. But I thought they were very specific and targeted with when they want to take their shots, and they hit them.
They absolutely hit him. I wrote about the Green Bay Packers on Friday, talking about them being one of the sleeper teams that we need to keep an eye on that could emerge as a contender. Some of this is, in my estimation, addition by subtraction. Not knocking Aaron Rodgers, but the subtraction of a 4-time MVP makes this team have to play a different way. But I think playing differently will give them a better chance of having postseason success because they have to play complementary ball, meaning they have to run the football, ball control, passing game, and really rely on a defense that features 7 first-rounders in the 2 deep on the depth chart. And so when you play to your strengths where you're more ball control and you're leaning on the defense, well, now I want the talent of the defense to show through. And we saw some of that with these guys on defense playing really, really well. And we can knock the Bears and talk about Justin Fields and his struggles and whether the offense is doing this. But if the Green Bay Packers play defense like that and they complement it with the running game and the ball control passing game, this is a team that can win a lot of fourth quarter games because they won't make mistakes and they'll find a way to get it done. I am really encouraged if I'm a Packers fan and watching the way that this team won, because this is the formula and the blueprint, not only for them to have sustained regular season success. To me, this is how they can win and advance farther in the postseason, by really being a team that's connected offense, defense, and special teams.
Yeah, and look, on the Bears side of things quickly, I mean, they just have nothing down the field. They either don't feel comfortable calling plays down the field, or Fields does not feel comfortable letting it loose. But they have got to get something going over the top. We talked about playing half-court basketball the other day. I mean, that's like a quarter court of basketball. I mean, they got no space, no room for Justin Fields in that offense. Man, brutal. But another quarterback, we talked about Love exceeding expectations. Man, maybe the biggest disappointment at the quarterback position and a team overall was Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett and what that looked like week one. This is a team, now again, San Francisco 49ers are stacked. They're loaded on the defensive side of the ball. I guess we probably should have lowered our expectations for Pickett in this offense. But Buck, this was ugly. It was not a pretty game. You see the numbers there, 31 of 46 for 232, had a couple picks and a touchdown. But this did not look anything like we thought it might look for this offense.
Didn't look anything like what I expected coming off the heels of a very strong preseason by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the preseason evidently is a lie, because what you look at preseason, what you think you know, you certainly have no idea. And the expectation where the Pittsburgh Steelers were getting ready to go toe-to-toe with the bullies on the block, the San Francisco 49ers, that they were going to meet them and beat them at their own game, a physical game where it's really about who can knock the other team out. And they tried, I guess, to do that, but the San Francisco 49ers proved to be too much of a match. I looked at their defense. They overwhelmed them at the point of attack, never allowed Kenny Pickett to get comfortable, couldn't win on the outside, never necessarily generated the big plays that you think this offense can generate. And to be honest, they couldn't run the football, nor did they try to run the football to make the game what we thought the game had to be. This had to be a fight in the middle of the ring where you're dropping haymaker after haymaker. The Steelers never could drop a haymaker, and the Niners just absolutely took them to the corner and beat them up until they had to tap out.
All right, coming up next, we are going to jump into our rookie draft. We'll see who came out on top last week, and we'll have our draft of rookies for week 2 of the NFL season right after this. All right, well, this year we kicked off something new on the show. We're going to be keeping track of these rookies on a weekly basis, doing it in a creative fashion with a rookie draft. We're each going to draft a quarterback, a running back, and then a pass catcher, either a wide receiver or a tight end. The way this is going to work is we're going to use standard fantasy scoring from NFL.com, and once we have those numbers come in, you get 3 points for finishing at the highest of a particular position. You get 1 point if you finish second, and you get nothing if you finish last. So we each drafted 3 guys last week in the first ever Move the Sticks rookie draft. This is how it shook out in terms of fantasy points. You look at the quarterbacks. Richardson got me 20, so I ended up taking the quarterback category. Stroud with 10 for Buck. You look at Rhett getting 7 from Bryce Young. The running backs, big win for Bucky with Bijan getting 20 points. Rhett had Gibbs was second there, and then I had Bigsby, who did not a whole lot for me. The wide receivers, we're never going to hear the end of this. Rhett got Puka Nacua, got him 21 points. I had Flowers, who got 17.7, and Addison got 16. So all 3 of us had really good-looking wideouts there. But just in terms of the fantasy points, it goes Bucky, myself, Rhett. But with our scoring system, how about this? It's 4-4.
High ball game.
We emerge from week 1 all locked up. So this is competitive. We're going to do this each and every week. We'll see some of the same names, obviously, with the quarterbacks, but we'll get some other names in the mix here with these pass catchers and maybe a running back or 2. So we're going to switch up the draft order. We're all knotted up right now. Buck, you got the first pick, I believe, last week. Rhett, you get the first pick this week. But before we do that, do you want to take a victory lap, by the way? I guess I'll go ahead, Rhett. Take your victory lap on Puka Nacua. Go ahead.
Come on. Yeah, better believe it. I mean, look, you know what? The conversation has kind of transformed a little bit when we talk about quarterbacks and we do those pro days and we talk about arm strength. And I think a lot of us get, enamored by some of it. But then we've kind of come back to level and saying, well, does he just have enough? Does he have enough arm strength? Yeah, he does. Puka Nacua has enough speed, right? He didn't run a 4.36 in Indianapolis at the combine or at his pro day. He has enough speed to get open. He is a strong receiver. I mean, first snap that he's got, first target he gets, he's got a blitzing corner comes after him off the edge. He's kind of able to just maintain his leverage, get in, and then find an open zone. I think he's got the trust of Matthew Stafford. He's got terrific hands. You watch another one, a little quick hitch, catches it, bam, he immediately knifes upfield. Not trying to mess around, going laterally. There's a lot to like about Puka Nacua. I mean, look, honestly, kind of reminds you a little bit of what you get out of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was thinking the same thing about Cooper because it was like at some point in time, you can't just like be like, well, he's, I don't know, he's just working in space. He's, he's not having, okay, he's not really facing much press coverage. It's like, no, he's good. He's just a good player.
Yeah, he's just
Buck,
a good player,
we're going to be selfless as we are. Let Rhett be the ego of the bunch. We won't take our victory laps on the guys that we got right. So we'll just jump right into the draft. Rhett, go ahead. You got the first pick.
Bijan Robinson, let's go. I think you're going to get even more touches this week out of the top 10 pick of the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Packers this week at home. I'm going Bijan for my running back with the first pick.
Yeah, I think we're going to have this every week. We're going to have Bijan Robinson being the first pick because it does feel like the gap between Bijan and anybody else at the position, it's pretty wide.
Well,
so
the rushing and the receiving, the touchdown he scored last week was incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't even major in Bijan in that game. He was they just minored in Bijan. I can't wait for the game where they really cut him loose. He's going to go off. So, look, that's a smart play. I can make a case I should go with the second running back here. But I'm not. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to go back to the well. What treated me well last week is going to treat me well this week, and that's Anthony Richardson. He's going to be my first pick. I'll take the quarterback. To me, the opportunity to make things happen with his legs, that helps, goose your point total a little bit here. So he gives you that. And I thought he did some nice things in the game last week. I thought he did really worked in the middle of the field. We talked about that yesterday. Showed some ability to sort through things and see things and deliver some accurate balls. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but I think the combination of him using his legs, get me some yards and maybe a touchdown on the ground, and then maybe hitting some plays down the field. I'm gonna go quarterback, Buck. I'm going Anthony Richardson with my first one.
Oh, man, it's a good pick. I haven't watched him up close and personal. He certainly did a good job for the Indianapolis Colts. They can build upon some of the stuff that they displayed against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So now I get back-to-back picks. So let's go on the perimeter and get two playmakers that can make it happen. Jahmyr Gibbs in week 2 should make an improvement. So I'm going to take him with my first pick for the Detroit Lions. Let's see if he's more comfortable, gets more touches, puts the ball in the paint. And then I'm going to go back because he treated me well a week ago. Let's go with Jordan Addison. I saw my guy Justin Jefferson have over 150 yards, but at some point they gotta take him away. So Jordan Addison will have more opportunities. So there we go. I am the king of the North. Give me a Detroit Lion and a Minnesota Viking, and let's see if we can put up some more monster numbers when it comes to fantasy. Because based on my scoring on the fantasy, I won that week. I don't know what kind of scoring system we're utilizing here, but based on the fantasy points, my team won last week, and I deserve my crown.
Well,
you did. You scored the most fantasy points, but the rules were well established before this whole thing started. So I mean, let's be honest here. It's a move
like the guy in the league
system. It is a
He's like the guy in the league that scores the most points at the end of the season, but doesn't make the playoffs, right? I mean, nobody wants that.
Yeah, well, don't get me started on the Padres' run differential. Okay, we could go down that road if you want. It doesn't matter. You got to win. You got to win the games with the rules as they exist. All right, I'm going to go my second pick. I feel like, look, I'm getting attached to some people. Last week I took Anthony Richardson, did a nice job for me.
Hold on a second. Don't I? Isn't it my turn?
No, Red doesn't understand how snake draft works. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand.
Do you not get this? I picked second. I pick in between you and Bucky the whole time.
First, then last.
Goodness gracious.
You're first, last, and first. That's it. Yeah, he's.
I need a draft.
Oh
Can we get a
my
draft
gosh.
tracker on the bottom?
Good. Hey, I don't know if Drew can hear me, but can we just auto draft him next week? Just leave him out of this segment.
Yeah, we put him on the auto draft.
it.
Okay.
I'm going Zay Flowers, second week in a row. He was great last week. I mean, shoot, he was, Puka Nacua ended up scoring the most points. He was right behind him, caught 9 balls, carried the ball a couple times. He's going to be the focal point, as Rhett said the other day, with Mark Andrews in this offense. So when Mark Andrews is healthy and out there, I think you'll see pretty even split there. But right now, I'm big on Zay Flowers and what he can do. Bubble screens, quick hitters, and then also what he showed route running wise, a legit comeback. You watch that route and you're like, okay, this dude is he's got it. So I've got Anthony Richardson. Now I've got Zay Flowers. And Rhett, how this works is you get to pick twice. In case you didn't know, go ahead.
Oh, copy that. Thank you very much. All right, guys. You know what? I think I'm gonna go back to the well here, and I'm gonna keep my same choices at quarterback and at receiver. Well, no. I'm not gonna keep the same choice at receiver. I'm gonna keep the same choice at quarterback. We're gonna go C.J. Stroud here, and I feel pretty good about that against this Colts defense. I think I saw enough of what we wanted to see from CJ to think he'll get a little bit better each and every week. So give me CJ Stroud with my quarterback selection. And then this week at wide receiver, oh boy,
Or tight end.
I could go tight end actually.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can do that.
Go bold.
And
do something different.
Yeah.
Do something different. Yeah, pass.
Okay,
Kincaid,
you know what?
Musgrave,
If you're
you got
challenging
Laporta.
me, give me Dalton Kincaid against the Las Vegas Raiders
Okay.
this
Wow.
week. Give me Dalton Kincaid to help Josh
There you go.
Allen find some more high percentage completions this week.
All right, there we go. I like that. All right, my last pick. I got to get a running back. Last week I was very confident. in Tank Bigsby.
You already felt
I put
really
him
good
out
about it.
there. I said, Buck, you're going to see it in person, and you're going to feel so bad watching a guy on the team that you're calling games for just run it up. And then he fumbled and didn't run the ball very well, but he did get in the end zone, so that was nice to get in the end zone once. Had a ball clank off of his hands. Wasn't a great showing. So
Yep.
we're out of the Tank business for now. We're gonna put him in timeout. Maybe we'll go back to him later. But I'm gonna go to a guy I'm gonna see in person for the Tennessee Titans and Tyjae Spears,
Tyjae!
a player who coming out of
Yeah.
Tulane, loved his game. Remember they did the medical and it's like he doesn't have an ACL, and it was like, oh gosh, how high can you take him? How long is his career gonna last? But he looked good last week. That's all I know. So I'll go ahead and take him. Last week the Chargers struggled against the pass. You got to figure the Titans aren't going to try and throw it nearly as much as the Dolphins are. They're going to come out and try and run the rock. So I'll go with Tyjae Spears.
I like
Well,
it.
that's easy. So now I am just left to pick one of the quarterbacks, and my options are C.J. Stroud versus Bryce Young.
No.
C.J.
You got Bryce.
Stroud is going against the
I
CJ
got
Stroud's
CJ.
gone.
Yeah. So I gotta go with Bryce.
You only got one.
Bryce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going with Bryce.
Why? What happened?
I took CJ Stroud.
He took Stroud.
You took Stroud.
What's going
Well, I
on
mean,
around
dude,
here?
He was
What do we
talking
do?
so much I couldn't. He was talking so much I couldn't pay attention. He was doing a dissertation on all his guys, and I lost focus. My ADD kicked in, so my bad. So I got Bryce Young. So it's that.
You got Bryce. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Next week, I'm auto-drafting both of you guys. I'm going to have Bucky's dog make his pick next week. Rhett, you're fired. You don't
feel
get to
like
make your pick either. What are we doing?
Man.
Come on.
All right.
All right,
He
that's
talk- he
it.
was
That's
talking
it.
too
We'll
much.
see
He
what the
does a shot
scoreboard
clock.
looks like. Wow, look at that. See, I've got them pitted against each other. I'm going to cruise to victory this week. All right, there you have it. There is our Week 2 rookie draft. A debacle is what it was, but we did get it finished. All right, coming up next, we are going to jump on the other side of the ball. Some big-time defensive performances in Week 1 individually and collectively. We'll get to that right after this. Want more NFL action this season? NFL Plus brings you live games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, game replays, and more, all in one place. Sign up today at plus.nfl.com. Terms and conditions apply. All right, well, one of the more dominating performances, you could make a case it was the most dominating performance, week one, was the Cowboys defense and what they did to Daniel Jones and the New York Giants. You see right here, highest pressure percentage in a single game the last 5 years, and there are the Dallas Cowboys in the four-hole with a 62.2 percentage of pressure. I mean, that is ridiculous. It's over 60% of the snaps they're getting pressure on the quarterback. Good luck playing offense when you're going up against that. Buck, when you look at this Cowboys group, you look at that front, you look at what they've done coaching-wise, personnel-wise, this looks like this could be a start of a pretty special season.
Yeah, pretty special season. And I'm going to say it starts with one player, and that's Micah Parsons. Elite defenses have one person that acts as the point on the sword. That's Micah Parsons. This is a guy that can play multiple spots along this front line. He can come from depth. He can line up on the edges. He can go and line up over the guard and just outwork and overpower a variety of different blockers utilizing various different moves. This is a special athlete, and what Dan Quinn has done is he's really unlocked a lot of the pass rush potential that flashed at Penn State when he was coming out. This dude is one of the best pass rushers, one of the best disruptors that we've seen in some time, and the Cowboys have built their defense around number 11, making play after play after play at the line of scrimmage.
You know, the other thing I feel like we've talked about for a while now, it's like, well, yeah, you got Parsons. Then on the other side, you got DeMarcus Lawrence, you know, who's been one of the best edge rushers in the game for a long time. But, guys, it feels like Dorrance Armstrong has kind of become that number 2 dude for the Cowboys in terms of getting after the passer. I mean, another 2 sacks in this game. The former Kansas Jayhawk, you know, came into the league as a 4th-round pick. I feel like it took a little bit of time to really start finding his stride. Man, last year absolutely exploded, and man, he's picking up right where he left off. Just a pressure machine, and he gets to the quarterback. He gets home, and that was fun to watch. So, you know, between him and Sam Williams and Odigizua in the interior, like, they could just come at you in waves from every different spot on the field. And, you know, whether you're bringing pressure, you know, an additional rusher from the second level, whether that's Micah Parsons or you're just lining them up front and you're bringing 4, they are going to generate pressure one way or another. You know, obviously at this rate, I don't know that you can expect that each and every week. But, man, that is going to be an absolute, you know, essentially extremely difficult scenario for opposing quarterbacks this season.
I went up there and watched them at camp, and I thought, okay, you know, everybody's talking about the offense. I'm like, this defense has got a chance to be special, just with the speed. There's a different speed and tempo that they play with. They practice that way because they're coached that way by Dan Quinn. They have a lot of different pieces, but to Bucky's point, I go back to, you know, those like little videos that they always show up on the internet of like a laser pointer and a cat that's following the laser pointer everywhere that it goes. Like, that's Micah Parsons. Wherever he is, he draws so much attention. He still finds a way to win, even though he's getting all that attention. But when they loop him and move him inside, you'll see it. He's gonna track 2 or 3 bodies. It frees up everybody else one-on-one. And when I watched it in the tape this morning, to me, Odigizua was the one who just jumped off the screen. I mean, he can rush inside, he can rush outside. He has an unbelievable knack for getting skinny and just slipping blocks. He can close and finish. You know, Rhett, you talked about Dorrance Armstrong and what he brings to the table as well. They have guys that can do a lot of different things. They have different pitches. Sam Williams is their fastball pitcher. He can just win right off the snap. So now, I don't think this is a fluky one-week thing. They've got I believe they have the Jets next week. So that'll be a fascinating one. That's not an easy one, coming off of Zach Wilson having to fill in for Aaron Rodgers against the Bills, and now you got to go face the Dallas Cowboys, Micah Parsons and company. Buck, when you looked at them and you look at the Eagles, obviously different opponents. The Patriots gave the Eagles a much better game. Where do you stack these guys up 1 week in with the Eagles and the Cowboys?
You know, the Cowboys are right there. In fact, I'll say the Cowboys are over them based on Dak Prescott's record against the team. And then when I look at the defense, just the way that the Cowboys are turning the ball over. This will be the second year in a row that they have been able to just knock the ball loose, whether it's scooping scores, picking off passes, taking pick sixes, blocking field goals and PATs. The Cowboys can do it in a variety of ways. And we know an opportunistic defense that can create turnovers just helps you, because turnovers are the biggest deciding factor in the game. Give me the Cowboys right now over the Eagles. I got to see more from the Eagles' young players. Can they fill the void that was created by some of the departures of the veterans on the front line?
You know, And I think if we're looking at defenses from week one that really impressed us, I think obviously you're talking about, what we saw last night from the Jets, the 49ers against the Steelers, obviously the Cowboys, subject to this discussion against the Giants. Eagles sure are going to be in that conversation. You got to throw the Browns in there now too in the AFC based on what they did to Joe Burrow and Jim Schwartz now leading the way as the defensive coordinator. But I think we're going to learn a lot, about both of those Cowboys and Jets, seeing them on that same field, watching that tape the next day after that 4:25 Eastern time matchup here week 2. That's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of pressure on both of these quarterbacks. Zach Wilson now for the Jets and Dak for the Cowboys. So I'm really kind of intrigued to see how both those guys handle it, because that is a tough task on both sides.
Yeah, no, I think these defenses are for real, and we've talked so much quarterbacks, offenses, and it looks like week one, maybe the bigger storyline is some of these teams that are stacked on the defensive side of the ball. The Cowboys definitely amongst that group. All right, it's time for Sacks and Quarterbacks presented by Campbell's. We're going to go from looking at things from a defensive team perspective. Let's narrow it down individually. And Buck, this is going to be right in your wheelhouse because it's a guy that you see each and every week. And Josh Allen, it's not kind to say the other Josh Allen, but he's a lesser-known Josh Allen, the edge rusher for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who had a big-time week 1, 3 sacks against the Indianapolis Colts. What have you seen from him from when he came into the league, when he first got to Jacksonville, to where he is at this point in time?
Yeah, an ascending player. This is a player that is playing for a new contract, a guy that is very motivated, and he's taking advantage of the opportunities. The Jacksonville Jaguars need a premier pass rusher to emerge, and Josh Allen is looking like that guy. What happened against the Indianapolis Colts? Josh Allen got more opportunities. In previous years, there was a deep rotation, 8-9 guys coming in. He wouldn't get all of the snaps. Last week against the Indianapolis Colts, he and Trayvon Walker played nearly every passing down. And the extra opportunities, we saw Josh Allen take advantage of them. He hunted after Anthony Richardson. I love the energy, I love the relentlessness, the tenacity, the toughness. He did all those things. This is a guy who has been to a Pro Bowl as a pass rusher. He is determined to get back because he knows if he gets back, he gets paid. This guy, number 41 for the Jaguars, looks the part right now. He is off to a fast start for the 2023 campaign.
Yeah, and I'll shoot it over to Rhett here real quick, but this was more of a finesse player coming out of college. It was all speed, it was all finesse. I'm seeing him get, some of it maybe just growing into his man strength. He's getting physically stronger, but the effort is often the component that people forget about when it comes to pass rushers. You look at guys that have big numbers every year, you're going to find 5 or 6 sacks like the ones he had last week based on effort.
Yeah, that first one was, a triple time testament to that effort. You had the tight end chips him initially, and then you get the running back gets a piece of him on his way out of the backfield, and then the right tackle finally, tries to get to him, but is too late just because that motor burns so hot and that speed is there, as you were talking about, the finesse piece to the game, and just continues to close. It continues to close in on Anthony Richardson, and I think that's probably a lesson for the young quarterback too. It's like, hey, you can't afford to hold the ball this long in this league, and so I think he'll get better for that. And Josh Allen certainly a big piece of what the Jaguars want to do defensively, because look, you can always win with that kind of effort. Obviously, you want to win a little bit quicker if you can, but you'll take that effort every day.
Yeah, not a bad start for the Jags and Josh Allen. Big week 1 win. We'll see what they look like as we go throughout the season. All right, coming up next, we are going to look at the Thursday night matchup. It should be a good one, an intriguing matchup when you look at the Vikings going to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to be a fun one. We'll dig into it right after this. YouTube TV is the new home of NFL Sunday Ticket. Being an NFL fan has never been easier. Watch every game every Sunday exclusively with NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. Sign up now and get $50 off. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, visit NFLSundayTicket.com. Coming up Thursday night, we have a very interesting matchup. 2 teams coming off different weeks here. We've got the Philadelphia Eagles. They're going to be at home, coming off of a win over the New England Patriots. It wasn't the prettiest win, but they got it done on the road. They come home, and they're going to take on a Minnesota Vikings team that, Buck, when you look at this Vikings team, offensively, yeah, it's great. They threw it all over the place. Justin Jefferson had his numbers. Kirk goes over 300 yards. but the run game was pretty much non-existent, and they couldn't find their way to the winner's circle against the Tampa Bay Bucks team led by Baker Mayfield. So you don't use terms like must-win game in week 2, but this should be a highly motivated Minnesota Vikings team going on the road in a short week that they have to look a little better, a little more well-rounded than what we saw week 1.
No, a must-win game is appropriate right now. Everyone knows the stats. When you go 0-2, your chance of making playoffs are very, very slim. I mean, almost slim and none. And so this is one where Kirk Cousins and company, offensively, they got to get it going because they are the strength of the team. They need Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson, this offense to play at a high level. Kevin O'Connell has to be in his bag, and he has to be in his bag not necessarily for the passing game. They need to run the football. They moved on from Dalvin Cook, put a lot on Alexander Mattison, underperformed the first week. They need to run the football to balance it out. They also need to run the ball to protect their defense from unnecessary exposure. This is one where the offense for the Minnesota Vikings has to come through, and they got to come through in a big way.
Yeah, and look, I mean, you gotta get rid of the turnovers, especially in really difficult situations, right? They get a strip sack on Kirk Cousins deep in their own end zone, inside their own 20. You give a short field to Baker Mayfield and the Bucks there, helps out an offense that, look, I don't know that we expected a ton out of them early on, but did enough to get the win. And then, you throw a touchdown in the red zone on the other side, and you're taking points off the board there. So you're giving points, you're taking points off the board, and then they had another fumble down, right about the 25-yard line going in. So, they had some serious points taken off the board due to turnovers, and then absolutely gave away some points. But you never want to turn the football over. You especially don't want to do it on either side, the plus or the minus 20-yard line. And I feel like if the Vikings can clean that up, we're probably talking about them winning this game this last week. And so you absolutely cannot afford those turnovers against a team like Philly. Beach.
Well, in honor of Monica from Friends, you know how many points the Minnesota Vikings scored against the Philadelphia Eagles when they played last year? 7. That was it. So they did not do well against this Eagles group. This Eagles defense is still in really good shape. I know we talked about Javon Hargrave, but man, Jalen Carter was awesome in week 1. Depending on who you follow in terms of statistics, 6, 7, 8 pressures. When you watch the cut-ups, he's winning consistently. So that pass rush against Kirk Cousins is going to be a problem for the Minnesota Vikings. You also look at Jalen Hurts, what he did in that meeting last year. No big deal. 26 of 31. For 333 yards. So they had some success through the air against the Minnesota Vikings last year as well. So for me, I'll get it back to you on this one, Buck, but the Minnesota Vikings, they better find a pass rush up front. That's going to be big for them on the defensive side of the ball. Try and disrupt the rhythm and the timing of Jalen Hurts, which they did not do last year. And they sure as heck better run the ball, because if they drop back 40-plus times with no run game, Kirk Cousins is going to get hit early and often.
Yeah, he's going to get hit early and often. The one thing to think about is Bill Belichick kind of laid out the game plan for how the Minnesota Vikings could and should potentially play the Philadelphia Eagles. Brian Flores certainly knows how to employ some of those similar tactics. Some of the stuff that the Patriots did to stymie Jalen Hurts was a lot of cover 0 and cover 0 shell looks. Look for the Minnesota Vikings to do some of that stuff, because those are staples of what Brian Flores has always done as a defensive coordinator.
And just from Philly's perspective, real quick, I know we talked about it on Monday a little bit about, the run game for the Eagles and the usage of the running backs. We didn't necessarily have a good feel for it coming in, and I feel like we're still kind of searching for it. Kenneth Gainwell obviously leading the way in touches for that group. DeAndre Swift, basically a ghost in the game plan in terms of touches within that offense. So how does that kind of manifest itself moving forward? And is it a week-to-week thing where they feel like, maybe against the Vikings, there's going to be some more opportunities for DeAndre Swift to find his place in this game plan? So I'm kind of really curious to see how Nick Sirianni and company continue to deploy the running backs.
Yeah, average under 4 yards a carry, something they need to get better at. And they have, with their offensive line, with their scheme, with the threat of Jalen as a runner that still exists, there's no reason for them not to be more productive on the ground in this one. So interesting game. See what the Eagles look like coming off kind of an ugly win, and then you've got Minnesota where they played terrible, but they didn't find a way to win their ball game. So Thursday night, big game in the NFC. Who knows? These teams could see each other again down the road in the postseason. Two teams that made the tournament last year. So looking forward to that one. Looking forward to a great week 2 of NFL action. A lot to live up to after an exciting week 1, but we cannot wait for it here with Move the Sticks and our crew here. We appreciate you hanging with us. We'll be back again every single day. We've got content for you, so be on the lookout. We have you covered right here on Move the Sticks.